Unmuted, so that's recording.
All right, so we call the committee meeting of the Public Safety General Government Committee to order at 6:24. Is that a question, Steve? Well, it's Steve. Okay. We have an agenda. There are agendas around. And Emily Hunter's not here. So I'm going to skip the first item. Unless she is online, or waiting to get in.
Unless somebody else is here.
Okay, that would be an option. I don't think so.
I'm here.
Okay, so I'm going to skip over that. What I want to do is I want to jump the agenda and move to the Beale Street issue, so these lovely, so the audience can leave. Don't want to put up with the remainder of the meeting. Aneshka's here so frequently, she might be a member.
Don't say that. You're welcome.
Mr. Shem.
Yes. Yeah, let me brief you on the issue at hand. I don't know if you have my correspondence, but this has actually been adjourned a couple of times because neither myself or John could be here. And I have discussed this with John, but there's a small section of Beale Street, small, that's a matter of opinion, I guess. The traffic moves along, shall we say, pretty quickly there. It comes, as you're coming from Wilbur, it's kind of a small downgrade, so people get moving. In addition, we have, softball at night. I got the young, I shouldn't really say that. We have people coming from the ballpark that sometimes are in a hurry to get someplace. And now, because the Beale Street Bridge is out, it is frequently used by large vehicles who like to get ahead of steam up also. There is a short ways away, if you're looking at the map, to the right is the intersection of actually it's on here.
Yeah.
There's a blinking light, which I can tell you from personal experience, doesn't really do much to slow people down through there. And I have learned to stop at the bottom of that hill, even though that has a blinking yellow light. People go through the stop sign and the red light quite frequently. And I've had numerous people give me the finger for thinking I should be stopping and letting them go through. So it is a little problem. I discussed it with John. I'm not quite sure what we can do. I just thought I would bring it before you guys. Maybe we could discuss some traffic calming ideas. One of the ideas we had was, the blinking mile-per-hour sign, put that down there for a while. Of course, that's, it's a short-term remedy. It works for a while. Then as soon as you take it out, they kind of go back. But I know we're already in discussion about permanent blinking signs. I don't know how far we've gotten with that.
I believe they've been ordered.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're not necessarily permanent because they're movable.
Movable, right.
But
More
yeah.
permanent than the other ones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and less bulky. So I think they're going to make a big difference above that. You can
Yeah,
probably attest to it.
There's a number of them. They do make a huge difference.
Yeah, and so I believe that I had confirmed this, but the last time I talked to folks about it was a couple of weeks ago, and it seemed like the order was going to be put in for 5 of them.
Yeah. All right. So how are we going to prioritize those?
So what we talked about doing when I met with the chief, so police chief Tinty, Ed Norman, Ryan Kuhn, and John Schultes, when we met to discuss this plan, because DPW is going to be the ones maintaining everything, charging, moving, they would like to be the ones, well, since they have to move it, what we will do is if Michelle has like Westchester Street, which is already going to be on the list.
Thank you.
And whatever other streets, Sarah Meg Lucas, so Beale Street, so you just email Ed
Okay.
and say, can you please put it on the rotation? And then they're gonna keep track of, they'll, again, do 5 of them, and then so when the battery has to be recharged,
Yeah.
each one will have 2, so there shouldn't be time to actually recharge it, they'll put the new charged battery in, and then move it to the next location.
Okay.
I mean, personally, this is, again, my own personal experience. I think it's one of the more effective traffic calming measures we have. I always slow down when I see that I'm speeding on it, when it's this big, and you have a tendency to pull off the gas a little bit. Okay, yeah, I can write something up. Do you guys have anything to add?
We have a lot to add,
Well, go ahead.
because we actually, go ahead, Nancy. We would like to read this if we may, because it won't take that long. We read it ourselves and it would take
Yes,
minutes,
okay, if they
15
speak,
minutes of
it's
your
fine.
time.
Yeah, go ahead.
They live right here.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, did you put a little marker where we live? Or
The
the,
little red bump where we would love a speed bump, because that's a raceway for us.
all right,
Go ahead, just go ahead.
so number one, Abeal Street is a main city artery used by all kinds of traffic. The problem area is in front of one of Kingston's most popular parks with the basketball court, baseball field, children's playground, picnic area with pavilion, and it's also popular for family gatherings and dog walkers. And along Abeal Street, homes are close to the street and need access in and out of driveways. Now, if you had one of those signs that say caution, driveway, active driveway, you would have to have so many on the street because these are active driveways. Our homes are right on the street. They're not set in or anything. Number two, heading west, Hunter Street is a steep downhill intersection that flows without stopping into Abeal Street. There is a flashing orange light on the Hunter Street side, which most motorists ignore. Problem, drivers come down the hill and speed up onto Beale Street. By the time they get to our house at 259 Beale Street, on the left, many cars increase speed and roar past our house. Some cars even cross the double yellow line. I see this often, people passing on a double yellow
Right
line on a curve, and pass cars that are obeying the speed limit. The solution is a speed bump. We say in the curve at Block Park. Sorry for the phone, we'll go off in a minute. Problem, the Abeal Street intersection with Hunter has a stop sign under which there's a small, mostly unreadable, tiny type yellow sign that says Hunter Street traffic does not stop.
If you look on the, if you look on
There's
the
no
back.
clear sight line. If you look on the back, you'll see pictures of these spots.
Do you mind if we ask questions after each bullet point here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, now, I want, again, just to add a little bit more. So first of all, some of your suggestions are to clear the weeds. Are we talking about city property here?
Yes,
Or are we talking about,
I believe so because the only people we know, I don't know, maybe she's right. But,
I mean, it could be a possibility if it's.
this is the berm, that's the berm that gets mowed by the city all the time. So I think it's a city property.
Okay, yeah, and I also know that there was talks about this thing a lot, years ago. About stop, and there was a reason why a stop sign is not at Hunter. Do you remember?
I think we decided at the time, because people are coming down the hill, we didn't think they'd be able to stop in the winter weather.
if they
Yeah.
If they tried to stop, they'd skid right through it.
Oh,
Most
that's,
people-
that's what I thought I remembered.
We have a stop sign right in the middle, like coming down the hill.
Yeah,
That's spring.
This is
I know.
certainly not the first time that I've brought this to everybody's attention. And the little Hunter Street traffic sign was something we decided on several years ago that may or may not help. I'm not quite sure that it does.
I mean, one thing we could ask DPW to make a bigger sign.
Yeah, we
I
could do
mean,
that.
that's not gonna that's not gonna solve all the problems, but if there's maybe 10 solutions.
Yeah,
Even if it stops two cars from
Right.
speeding, that would be better than nothing.
Yeah, and then also maybe reach out to DPW about seeing about the weeds, if that is one of the clauses there, and if they can maintain that,
yeah,
if
actually,
it's
that,
city property.
now, I don't even, it may be so long ago, you guys might not even live there, but that was one of my complaints, and that was taken right down to ground level, but.
Recently, they came and mowed it.
Yeah,
But they don't always mow it.
yeah.
There's,
So anyway.
there's five cities, so,
Yeah,
and
okay.
DPW is not fully staffed. So they're, I think, 7 understaffed right now. So.
Go ahead, Nelson.
They do their best, but if you ask them, I'm sure that they'd make sure that that happens.
Okay, yeah, I'll go down, and take some pictures of it again, and maybe we can get that cleared out a little more.
That's a good idea.
Okay, sorry, those are my questions.
Okay. Finishing, number 2 down there, it says Hunter Street traffic does not stop, there's no clear sight line from the Beale Street because of the grassy berm that's overgrown with weeds, suggestion of clear the weeds, all right, we got that. 3,
We would like the Hunter Street traffic to come to a full stop.
Yeah,
There was a safety reason though, I know it came from the engineer, so we might want to come
Because of
back
this
to that.
yeah, I can ask again, I know
Yeah,
that was a request at another
I'm sure,
occasion,
I'm
and
sure.
it was, the request was not granted.
Okay.
So
But if
I'll have to
you-
go back and see what the exact reasons, and I'm sure it was pretty simple that everybody was afraid people would not be able to stop there, and it might cause accidents, you know.
but they now have an orange light, an orange flashing
Oh,
light, and they
right.
just don't even care.
Oh, I know, yeah,
Done it.
yeah.
Done it.
Believe me,
especially if they,
I've been there, I've had so many close calls at that intersection.
And
Yeah.
also, I mean, I know this is not very popular comments, but how about enforcement?
That would be the one that I was going to go.
Well,
yeah,
I would go to 2 things.
again,
they make a lot of money there.
Well, even just warnings,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, I always think that good people do bad things and you could stop that, bad people just find it fun to, you know, go really fast. I don't think there's anything that we're going to do to slow them down.
Right,
Any
exactly.
solution is going to slow
Yeah.
them down, but if you could slow the good people who are just making a mistake, not thinking, whatever, if they get a
Yeah.
warning.
Also,
again, I have spoken to the chief about that, and they do it periodically, but it's a
I've
simple
never
story.
seen
Well,
that.
It slows them down for a while, you know, even.
One of the things that I think might help here, and this is from my experience in India, where they actually grade the pavement in such a way it's bubbly as you go down the slope. So that you literally, you go, oh my God, what is going on? You know, and you have to like put your brakes on.
Yeah,
But I know, this is not India and that people like their cars here a lot. And, they don't like.
Right, some of those things, some of those become problematic when you have snow.
yeah, there's reasons we have to use those.
It's more problematic if it's slick and you're going straight down.
So was there any actual crash data here? Do we have any?
No, I mean, we hear screeching, honking, close calls. We almost hit a motorcyclist who was racing through there because you couldn't see him. You could not see them at all. I didn't even know that guy was there until we were almost on him.
Yeah, the problem is, the angle
Well,
there
those
and
things
the
are good.
incline
But-
are not easy to
Yeah.
gauge what's happening.
Anyway, so let's
Yep.
skip to the next,
Yeah, okay.
let's skip
Go
to
ahead.
the next couple of, go ahead, Nelson.
Okay.
3.
Continuing heading west, German Street is also a steep downhill with a stop sign. By the time that the people from Hunter Street pass this street on appeal, they're often going at speeds higher than 30 miles per hour. There are often near misses at this intersection. Solution, clear the trees and brushes that hide the Beale Street sightline problem.
Oh, yeah, this is another problem.
Sanitation totally blocks the view at German Street in both directions. This is why often we don't see anything, because that is also right on the road.
Where are the sanitation?
The sanitation hut is right here. It's right there. And do you have a picture of it now? Yeah.
I would think that that's, I this is just a guess, but that I would imagine is private property, not city.
This stuff right here.
So,
Okay.
this is the city, you know, we can't really,
Yeah, this is an
unless
abandoned house.
Really old.
I mean, I guess they could look at it to see, but if it's not owned by the city, then it's owned by somebody. And so we can't go in there, but we
Yes, they
could,
can-
if it's a
they can
safety issue, they could ask.
Cut it down.
Yeah.
Well, the building department, if you pass on the on that road.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
sometimes the
that
building
would be-
department does it.
Yeah.
Here it is, it's this little house that is, you know, the toilet. That is, occludes the view, so that when people come this way, they go, they're always going directly past, but they don't see German, they don't see that, and it's like, we hear the screeching and, you know, almost all the time.
So who's, yeah, who
So-
owns that toilet?
The city,
The city, could they move it to another
Parks
quarter?
Department, no, I don't think so, because I think it's, you know.
Oh,
into
it's
the-
plugged
it has to be
into the-
sucked out.
plugged into
And the sanitary.
they come and suck it out all the time.
I see.
The, are we almost done? I mean, I,
Yeah, no, we're done.
okay.
No, one thing, one more
One
thing.
short-
The last thing that I don't get, and I don't know what we can do about it, is where this little orange jiggly thing is. This is really scary, and I only hear this from my out-of-town friends. They go, "What is that street? That is so scary." They go up Hunter, and they literally are in the oncoming traffic.
You have to,
Oh my
you
God.
have to move to the
You
right.
have to like immediately move to the right to get out of the oncoming traffic. Because people are always trying to go around cars that are parked there. So they're like, what? They're in my way. And I go, you know,
But are a lot of those houses, do they have driveways? I mean, we don't, the solution would be to say no parking on.
oh no, they
No,
don't.
they don't.
I think there used to be a school bus on one of the driveways
Old City.
that would back out into the driveway.
Little city problems.
Old City.
Anyway,
There you go.
we see a ton of these things. My, you know, dream would be for us to have a big speed bump in front of our house because they use that banking thing like they, you know, and then they blast the big guns, you know, and they shake our glass and
Those are especially the.
we do this all the time, especially on weekends, but anyway.
Well, I'll make a couple of suggestions. I would suggest, first of all, that we get some data from the speed signs gather data.
I think that's
That would be
So we
great.
know what the speed limit, how fast people are driving there, and that'll give us something. to
You
think
mean
about.
those signs that say
The
you are
signs that say you
traveling?
are
and
traveling
stuff?
Also record the speed.
Oh, I know.
Okay,
Okay, so we'll know, so data, I'm a data guy, so we'll know the data, we'll know how fast people are going.
okay.
We might want to certainly talk to Public Works about clearing some of the brush in the area.
Definitely.
Well, ultimately, do we go to John Schulteis and say, you know, we'd like to have a study of this area? Maybe, but
But
let's
the
see,
first thing
let's
that-
see.
the first thing that he's
the
gonna
data.
ask is
The
the
data.
data.
Yeah.
Right,
This,
so let's get the data and then find out.
We've been there since 27.
Right.
And this curve originally, when first mentioned, was going to get chopped off.
Mhm.
There was a $9 million grant that had
been granted to the city of Kingston, it never happened. There's a lot of
To
Land
flatten
things
that curve?
completely, chop it, because it was such, it's always been such a mess.
Yeah.
It's always been a mess.
So I would suggest that we sit tight until we get the data. And given that the signs are coming, we'll have the data. And then we'll be able to revisit the situation and see what we want to do.
Sounds
We
great.
could also, instead of waiting for those signs, you could ask Steve ask Chief Tinty for the big one. The only, the thing with that is
Right.
not as, it's so obvious,
Where do you
but
put
that would be, if you want to move along a little quicker, to
Yeah.
want to wait, I'll try and find out, actually send.
Where
Where would you put it?
Do you want me to,
That's
handle this
Yeah,
list?
that would be good.
I'll reach out to, Jim right now and ask him
I guess
if
they-
there's an ETA of the
You
signs.
might have problems, and you might also, last I heard, they had some issues with it operating. I guess they're working on it, but I guess maybe it's fixed. There was a little bit about that. But
Well, thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. We're obviously bothered by it all the time, but we love where we live and we wouldn't live anywhere else. So thank you for listening.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
So
So
Steve,
Steve, that up, Bob, that was,
Steve, if you could march on with that, that would be great.
yeah, okay, yeah, I'll take care of all that.
All right, now you promised me the rest of this agenda is going to be easy, so we have the
Remember
next.
we used the word
Oh,
promise?
famous last word. We're looking for.
Wait a second. So it's promise.
The next item is an ADA sign removal, a request from Alderman
We will give a
Worthington.
chance.
Um,
I move that we adopt the motion.
Motion and second.
Second.
Wait, let me fill this out.
You have to put the actual address.
We don't got that.
So-
Print this out already?
Not for finance, you don't have to think about that. Thanks for
Okay,
the
so,
second.
so the description would be removal,
This
right?
is double refuse to do it.
Yeah, this is the radiation.
At,
So, resolution units, right?
no, I don't. Remove ADA signs, residential, I don't know, number, right?
It's
Oh, yeah. I will be
No,
on
it's
train from,
Removal of the printing outside of ADA sign at
so that
68
makes
Cedar
sense.
Street.
I give it.
So if you can-
Yeah, like.
Cedar.
Okay. Remove ADA sign of 68.
Don't be crazy.
Motion by Rennie, seconded by Michelle. Anybody, any discussion?
I'm out.
Motion on the floor, any discussion?
Any discussion?
All right, should we call for the vote? Should we
Have a
vote?
good night. Thanks, Bob.
Okay,
no
Steve.
discussion, we'll call it.
Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. Let me get this right. Hearing, I just did it. Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstainers? Done.
We can't abstain, by the way.
We can't? Really?
So,
We're against our rules. You could recuse yourself if there's a conflict of interest, but that's it.
But you have to vote either yes or no.
Even if you can't decide, you don't want to, you vote.
it says right there in the rules, no milk toast.
No easy.
There you go.
I didn't see that word in
You gotta look carefully.
there.
Okay, now we have another ADA sign removal request.
This one is from me. I've been requesting this for a while and they finally came to me to ask me to make it happen. And so I'm requesting 9 Klingberg Avenue.
9. KLING Avenue. Okay,
I will still be with me.
I moved it.
Rennie already
I'll
moved
make you
it.
pay.
Moved it up.
I would have been arrested.
Any second? We have a second for this?
Can I enter into discussion?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, I second this.
All right, any discussion?
I have a question. Why is this sign, why would you like to remove this sign?
Because the person who had requested it no longer lives there.
Okay, thank you. That answers my
And
question.
it's a big person and.
That's always something.
Yeah, that's, it's gonna be.
That's almost the answer for all of these.
Yeah.
Okay.
I promise I'm not just removing a sign from,
Devious, devious.
just there, think of me.
I'm gonna move it 3 spaces down.
There we go.
Okay, so there's the discussion. Any other discussion? Call for the, what do you say? I'll call for the vote, I'll call for a vote.
Yeah.
Hearing no discussion.
Hearing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. You-
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No opposed, we're good. Okay. You're right. Okay, it's this one, it's this one. Shoot, it's hard. Okay,
You have to sign this one, right?
another one. Okay. From Andrea, ADA sign.
No, this one is actually a request, not a removal.
Okay.
So there was a request on 68 King James Street. Her permit is attached in the agenda, which is our kind of unofficial policy to have. And I did double check this with our code, and DPW actually went to measure it out today to make sure that there's no compliance issues. So we are good to go if you guys so wish to grant this handicap sign for the women in need.
I'm going to adopt this resolution.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
Okay, then, I'm just going to call for the vote.
Yeah, you just do that.
Yeah, I'm just going to call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? We're good. All right,
Is he getting an easy one?
yeah. This is, this goes.
Okay.
to sign, I wouldn't sign that.
You didn't sign up, very sign up. Oh, gosh, let's, we'll go to Albany. Should we go to Albany, Clinton, or finish, let's jump the agenda again.
Well, I could do Albany Clinton, because that's gonna be the easy one.
Okay, let's do Albany, Clinton.
Okay, yeah, so Michael Burke, as you all know, all know Michael Burke, right? So he had sent this request, but since he sent the request, there has been some actions of more just of an update. As you know, actually, I shouldn't say that because there's three of you who are new here. So you may not know, but there is a project in the works for that intersection. And we have, I can't remember how much grant money, but we have some grant money and it's
From the
in,
DRI.
I think the design is complete.
My understanding, design complete, money's from the downtown revitalization initiative. I don't think it's enough, but they're working on that.
Okay, but there is a plan in motion to work on that. So when I sent this out for engineer study, which we have to do for every one of our traffic, anything related to traffic, we send it out for engineering and DPW for their feedback. It's not binding, but we need to at least hear it so that we know we're hearing from people who frankly know more than the majority of us. Now that Bob's on, I don't think I can say all of us. So anyway, so I sent this out immediately to John and Ryan, and they had suggested that we hold off because of the project and the works.
Okay.
But they did suggest that, and you know how there's a no turn on rate from a certain hour time? They suggested that we take that down as a trial.
Today.
It's down. Yeah, because there wasn't, you don't need council legislation for that, so they made the decision to do that. And they're keeping an eye on it to see if it was if it's working.
I'll stop blowing my horn. It'll work.
So, yeah, so that happened. Yeah, I think it's gone up and down,
Yeah.
so,
Right.
so we'll see what happens, but that was their ask from engineer and DPW, so hopefully that will make things better, and then we'll just wait to see how the project rolls out, so.
And when is the project going to start, or is it started?
It's up to design.
Oh, it's a
I think at
design
this
right
point,
now.
they're looking at funding and right-of-way issues, if there's
Oh,
right-of-way issues
okay.
involved.
I see.
It's a complicated intersection, it's 5 lanes with a
It is,
driveway,
I know.
it's a mess.
That driveway is supposed to be moved.
Right.
And the Governor Clinton people are supposed to pay for it.
Wasn't it a while ago?
Yep.
Oh,
It's kind of a mess.
But it's years ago that
Right.
we stipulated they would pay for moving the driveway. So I'm not sure what they.
That is, we might not have asked.
Foot dragging is about.
The other issue is that with the new roundabout, it takes time for the traffic pattern to settle in. That's a relatively new installation. So the backups that we're seeing, I think, to some extent are, could be associated with that. They could be going away. It's got to settle in for a while. So,
From my layperson perspective, it seems like it's better.
oh, what,
With the roundabout, the
Wait.
backup is not nearly what it used to be, in my opinion, so.
and the crash rate's way down, from what I understand. I mean, when they had those series of signals that were kind of halfway coordinated, the crash rate was pretty high. So it's good that it's an improvement. That's a good thing.
is it?
So we don't have to worry about this until we revisit this
Yeah.
later.
So I guess stay tuned, or maybe I'll come back with nothing, because that's all problem solved.
That's kind
Do you know about the dashboard that Brian Slack is creating for making public crash data in Worcester County?
Yeah, he was doing that, he started that on the Complete Streets Advisory Council.
Did you know that's on public yet?
I don't think he's done with it yet, I think he's close. And
Okay.
remember, it's not gonna be, because it's not gonna be, individuals will not be identified in the
We don't
database.
know, we don't want that.
The crashes will be,
But like, I mean, we could have solved a lot of this right here. with that data.
right. It's probably close, he was very close when I left the council a couple of months ago. So it's gonna be a very useful tool. It'll be an online tool, you can see where the crashes are throughout the county.
Wow.
And they're gonna link with like,
It's all
Yeah.
crashes. Any crash that gets a police report will be included in this.
How far back away?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't, I don't know.
And who will be entering the data into this?
The county planning,
Okay.
and they'll be taking the data from, the problem is there's a significant lag between crash recording by a responding police agency
Yes,
and the DMV getting it. So he'll be getting his information from the DMV,
I see.
but I do think he's got a contact with the police so he can get some of it, but he's looking at countywide. So,
I see.
I mean, he may get stuff from the Kingston Police, but the
Right.
sheriff and the other jurisdictions. So there's a lag in in when he gets data.
But ultimately,
Ultimately,
everything-
and you'll see patterns. You can see that,
Right.
this was a terrible, this location has a lot of crashes, that
Okay.
kind of stuff. So
Yeah, that's right.
No parking at Western Street. Next item. I've been talking to John and to Ed about this. The problem is that there is four industrial sites back on Western Street behind the printer, across from Check. Roofer, and there's Rowan Woodworks, and now there's a brewery back there, which is again, and electrical coating guy. And when they get deliveries with tractor trailer trucks back there, they have trouble getting out west. Everybody parks on there and you can't make a turn. Truck drivers get mad and everybody gets excited. And the couple of the owners talked to me about that. So John looked at it and Ed looked at it, and they just, we were talking about prohibiting parking on one side so they can make a swing, but really it's an enforcement and a signage issue at first. People are crowding the hydrant, people are crowding the corner, so they're going to sign it according to existing regulations, and we'll see what happens. We think that'll solve the problem.
Is that the street across from Quick Check?
It's the one without the
Yeah,
light. There's the
yeah,
light
right.
is,
Yeah.
so they come in by the light, and then they do their business and try to get out through Western.
Okay.
And they can't, there's all.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that corner.
Yeah.
Just because there's a couple of new members, how this works, there's several things that just don't need legislation. So for what ended up being the solution, or what we're hoping is the solution, doesn't need council legislation. They're putting up stop signs around, I think 19 feet to the,
Right,
from the corner, like that's state law, so they could put up a sign without our approval. Also around the fire hydrant, they could do, DPW is the pronoun, they don't need that. So sometimes when an alderman or whoever puts in a traffic issue and it has to go through engineering, sometimes when I send it to the engineer and we're talking about it between me, the two of them, and whoever, like in this instance, Bob, we could figure out a solution that doesn't necessarily need to come to the council.
Because it's already in state law
right.
already, so there's already a law coverage.
Yeah, DPW goes up there, but then that's one of the reasons why for the engineering study, but it's really also just to make sure that we're doing stuff that is in the best interest of everything. So for example, a stop sign may seem like it's a traffic calming device, but it's actually not designed for traffic calming.
Yeah.
And so there were plenty of instances where aldermen, before any of our time, we're putting up stop signs for traffic calming, and that's one of the reasons why we have so many stop signs. And so we developed this a few years ago to make sure that anything that we bring forward that passes out of the council, so stop sign needs legislation, handicap sign, no parking, those all need legislation from us, has to have a report from DPW and the engineer. So that they come back and give us a recommendation. It's not binding, so we could still say, too bad, we're gonna do this. So we still get the last say, although usually, I personally don't recommend that, and I don't think we've ever had a situation that.
It's not prudent to ignore their recommendation.
Yeah, that's.
We used to,
Yeah.
they used to do stuff, the problem with stop signs, for example, one of my favorite things here, is it doesn't stop accidents, it changes them. Okay, so what happens is you end up with rear end accidents instead of T-bone accidents. Or if you're trying to calm traffic, you end up with rear end accidents as a result of your activities to calm traffic, which is not a good outcome. And if you don't have an engineering study to back it up, if you get sued by someone, it can be problematic. So having the engineering involved is important.
It's a good thing, right?
Yeah, and also what I learned a lot my first couple of years about traffic safety is the more signs that you have, the more people will neglect them.
Right.
There's too many.
Yeah, and Kingston is bombarded with signs. So I just I figured this was a good time to explain some of that. I don't know if anybody has any questions or.
Part of the reason for that is because most of the people who speed are actually people in the neighborhood. And one of the reasons one of the things that happens is they get used to all the stop signs, so they stop stopping.
Right.
And they more and more glide through and they think I know the streets and all the speed limit. We had that issue with some guy recently, it's like too much speeding on the street, we got the police to go there and report him for speeding.
Yeah, well, the California stop, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Good.
anyway, I just thought that was a
Thank
good
you.
time
No,
to
thank you. This is helpful.
jump into that.
Traffic's always fun. Well, ADA sign request from Alderman Frankel.
So I could talk on both of these. I mean, the first one I believe is a removal. Right, oh no, that one's a request. Okay, this, also, I would explain a little bit because I'm not exaggerating. I think I sent 40 emails about this one handicap sign. Because it's not at 123 Green Street. That side of the street has no parking. So you can't put a handicap sign where there's no parking. So
Okay.
it took me a while, but it is 124 Green Street. And that was
Okay.
confirmed by Carl, and Ed also confirmed that today when he was out. I don't know if Carl talked to the constituents on that side of the street, if they're gonna be super happy, but I did warn him that, so he wants to move forward. So it's 124 Green Street.
Okay.
Yeah, so just if you have a sign that you're requesting for a constituent, because it has to go on a code, it has to be the exact location
Got it.
of wherever you're putting it. And so we always double check to make sure the code, like there isn't a fire hydrant, or in this case, there was no parking on that side of the street. And so plot after he sends us in.
So they're moving the parking across the street?
Yeah, so the person lives on Green Street here on this side, but there's no parking
Right.
on this. So he's now requesting a parking spot on this side of the street,
So across the street from where.
across the street from it, yeah.
But in a sign space, so he doesn't have to walk.
It's not a
Okay.
sign, none of our sorry, I shouldn't have said it like
Oh,
a
okay.
school teacher. None of our, handicap signs are not
For anyone
signs.
who has.
Anybody who has a permit
Yeah.
can park in that spots. So we do ask for their permit just for verification that we're putting this there, but if somebody else wants to park there and they have a permit, they have every right to park there.
Having counts on.
Yeah, that we could stop people who don't have permits. So that was my concern, was because it's not directly in front of his house and
And how the residents of the street feel
Right.
about.
Who's parking there now?
Yeah.
I always have that concern.
Yeah.
I mentioned that to Carl and said you might want to think about it. He seemed to want to go ahead with this request. So, I mean, it's up to you all. I mean, typically, we are courteous of each other and, each other knows our own wards. And we try and show that respect. And if he ends up having an angry constituent, then we can always take it down, but he might not, he might have also okayed it, so because I did give him a heads up and he wanted to proceed.
Okay.
So he's not here to advocate for himself, and I went through everything, but just if you do put that in, please try and be very specific about where you actually want it, because we need it for not only the code, but when DPW gets out, they get handed this, and if it's wrong, they're putting it on the line, and we've had that issue before in the past.
Okay.
So, anyway, this,
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve a handicap sign for 124 Green Street.
Motion.
Second.
Beach Ed.
Yeah, I jump.
Any discussion?
You might want to look into doing some exercise programs, it'll.
There you go.
you need some more energy.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting to talk about it.
Any discussion?
No.
Seeing no discussion, I'll ask for a vote. All
When
those-
do you see discussion?
Is there any discussion? No
Jury discussion?
No.
See mouths,
I see mouths moving, so it's done.
hands raised.
Right,
You can see it, come on now.
so I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed, good, okay.
Okay.
And the last one, since I'm here for Carl, apparently, is just another removal, and again, the constituent, they're selling their house. It was for the person's mother, they no longer need handicap. So this is at 173 Allendorf Street. This is a removal.
Okay,
Okay, we have a motion to remove the sign at 173 Elmendorf Street.
I also move.
Okay, second?
Question.
Come on, Drew. Okay. Any discussion?
No.
Absent discussion, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
Done. With that one, I believe we stand adjourned. Do I have a motion for adjourn, to adjourn?
Go ahead, go. Good stuff. That's what I told you. I'll
Okay.
second that.
All right.
So there's something else.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. 7